one of the greatest barriers to spiritual realization is spiritual teaching, spiritual teachings. And hand in hand with that goes what I refer to as the romance of spirituality, or the romance of yoga. We love the stories of the yogis, these great beings who've mastered the wayward demands of the body. They've reached higher states of consciousness. They've acquired supernormal powers, and they've attained ultimate realization. And they might have powers which involve not needing to eat, or not needing to breathe. They might have more obvious ones. They might be able to produce things out of thin air and all the rest of it. And perhaps you might even have encountered such a yogi and been impressed by the presence around him, his spiritual presence or her spiritual presence. This is great stuff, isn't it? But what's it got to do with awareness? Within the Yoga Vasistha, we have what seems to me to be two competing strands. There are two strands, and they seem to be competing for dominance, vying for dominance. And one is the strand which teaches self-enquiry, inquiry into the nature of who you are, of what you are. And that inquiry is about directly observing your own awareness. And then there's the other teaching which says that there's various things you've got to do, various practices you've got to engage in before you reach this awareness. And there is nothing you can do to reach awareness except be aware. There is nothing you can do to realize absolute Brahman except realize it. You turn your attention on itself, you become aware of your own awareness. And if you start taking the romance of yoga, the romance of spirituality seriously, then you'll never get there. And I want to just give a little example of what I'm talking about. I've got here an English translation of another Hindu scripture, and there's an introduction by somebody who's obviously of some eminence. I'll just read what he says. All human beings experience the waking, dreaming and sleeping states, but only a fortunate few, the yogis, attain the fourth state called turiya. These rare ones reach the summit and have a profound view of all states experienced by human beings. The aspirant who has attained such a lofty state is rare, and knows the mystery of life here and hereafter. Nothing remains unknown to him. Such a great yogi does not belong to any caste, creed, sex or ethnic group, because he has already transcended all such superficial limitations. Isn't this a great story? And you might find that quite inspiring, the notion of this yogi who's transcended all our normal human states and is residing in this fourth state called turiya. But what is the practical benefit of this story? The practical benefit is to say it's only for the lofty few. You haven't got much chance of getting there because it's such a rarefied state that all we can do is gasp in awe at those great yogis who've managed to get there. And this is exactly what I mean by spiritual teachings getting in the way of spiritual realization. The effect of these paragraphs is to remove the possibility of enlightenment, unless you've got this kind of ego which says, yes, I can do it, I'm that sort of person, I can go for it, I'm going to be one of these lofty few. Well, what an ego that takes. What this teaching is saying, that our own awareness, our own essence, is basically out of reach of most of us. We really must dismiss this kind of story. We must get beyond this story. We must get beyond this story to what the truth is. And the truth is accessible to anybody. And it's only once you've stumbled upon this truth that any talk of mental training becomes relevant, because then you have to deal with your tendencies which take you away from your own realization of your own nature. And I think this is what the Yoga Vasistha teaches as well. This is why it says it's all stories. It tells us these stories, and then it reminds us that they are in fact stories. And the only way to realization is by direct observation of your own awareness. How do you do that? What path, what preparation must we take to do that? There is no preparation which takes you there whatsoever. It's something you either do or you don't. It's rather like saying, what preparation, what strategy should I use to win the lottery? Well, I'll tell you the strategy. Here's how you win the lottery. You buy a ticket. That's the only preparation that you need to win the lottery, is you buy a ticket. Although even then, as far as spiritual realization is concerned, you don't even have to buy a ticket. You can win the lottery without even buying a ticket. So, if you're interested in the yogi, the story of the yogi, the yogic way, then by all means follow it. If you want to try and transcend waking, dreaming and sleeping states through yogic practice, then go for it. Go for it. But as it said in the Yoga Vasistha, the waking, dreaming and sleeping states should be understood figuratively. The waking state is the notion of an external world. The dreaming state is the notion of an I, an individual. The sleeping state is the thought stream. And the turiya is awareness, simple awareness. So you transcend, you let go of notions. It's best not to use the word transcend, it's too otherworldly. You let go of notions of an external world, of an individual self. You go beyond your psychological tendencies which fuel the thought stream, and then you're in awareness. This is what's left. Turiya. This is what happens with self-enquiry. But if you want to follow the yogic way and somehow think you've literally got to get into a different state of consciousness which transcends waking, dreaming and sleeping, then go for it. But it's nothing to do with self-enquiry.